Well, Christmas is all finished, but this week we have some more turkey for you. No Brussels though, but lots of surprises. Just a quick thank you to the very supportive Vector Air for the loan of the guns today, without whom I couldn't possibly bring you the reviews I do. They are fastly becoming the go-to airgun shop in the North East Midlands. The details and the links are in the description box below. Hello and welcome to AAR on Air. This week it's the turn of the Reximex Myth, but this most definitely has a familiar feel to it. This is in the budget category, but is loaded with features above its price break. Let's take a closer look, shall we? It is 830mm or just under 33 inches straight out of the box, which means there is no silencer fitted, which would naturally add extra length. It tips the scales unscoped at just over 3 kilograms or £6 12 ounces, which is a pleasant surprise for a Turkish made gun dressed in Turkish walnut. I don't know how Reximex do it, but they seem to have listened about the complaints about Turkish guns, mainly the excessive weight point, and like a Victoria's Secret show, they've kept the all-important pounds off and maintained an attractive shape. I just know most of you are now going to be searching through YouTube for Victoria's Secrets. As I said, this one is dressed up in a walnut finish, but there are several options available, including an all-weather polymer finish. Look out for that in the target work. By now, I'm sure a few of you will be shouting Karl NPO2. And yes, there are some similarities, but also some subtle differences too. From the front, the barrel is fitted with a muzzle brake, but this is on a 1/2 inch UNF thread, which means you can instantly add a silencer of your choice. I added a QGS6 and the difference was considerable, but it didn't add too much length or weight. The barrel on this is around 380mm, which is longer than the NPO2, so already you can start and see there are a few differences. Below this is the first air cylinder. Note I said first, with a removable large diameter dust cover for a male Foster fitting filler underneath. I do like a simple filler. That one only requires connecting to a standard female fitting, and that is also supplied on most pumps, tanks or compressors, and there's even one in the box as well. Note there is no manometer or gauge on the end. This is positioned on the side, so no looking down the business end. The gauge, is an oversized Reximex branded white on black, colour-coded white, green and red to highlight the 250 bar max fill pressure. This gauge is giving you the total gun pressure because there is a further cylinder at the rear forming the butt. This gives a total of 380 cc's of air, and this should be good for around 200 shots per fill. And yes, filling at the front does fill both cylinders. This is a really sensible use of space to ensure the total length of the bullpup is kept down, and of course the weight of the steel cylinder is back in the shoulder, keeping the balance of the gun just right. The main body or stock of this gun is, as we've already said, Turkish walnut, which is really nice wood. And this is a winner in the grain lottery. The finish is pretty good. But if you're really fussy, then you could spend a little time to improve the overall finish. Note the caveat here is don't forget this is in the budget category, and as such the finish is pretty good. If you want to put this in the £1,000 plus category, then you may want to add a little time to your latest acquisition, as it were. The shaping is very comfortable, and more time and attention has been paid to the pistol grip, which is more ergonomic and shaped to your hand. The result is more comfort. There is stippling on the forestock and the grip area, and even 2 swivel studs, front and rear, fitted so you can put a sling on if required. There is also a thread fitting on the underside to fit a supplied rail for your bipods, etc. The stock also forms the trigger guard, which houses a rather nice 2-stage adjustable trigger. This will need the stock removing to make any adjustments though. The safety is a push-through type and is countersunk into the stock. It's left to right for safe and right to left for fire. In safe, it completely locks the trigger. It's a manual safety, so you are in full control. This is a side lever cocking system, and it must be said is pretty smooth in action. There are defined clicks for both full back and cocked and returned home. This is classed as an ambidextrous bullpup, but the side lever isn't interchangeable from right to left. That said, this is always a personal thing, and to me doesn't stop it at all being classed as ambidextrous, because some people want to shoot underarm anyway. In front of this is a power adjuster, so I'll be taking a closer look at that maybe a little later. The top rail is the dual system, which I am a huge fan of. This gives you the option of either Picatinny or dovetail mounts for your scope, meaning if you have a scope, you won't need to be buying more mounts if you seemingly have the wrong type of mounts, as it were. The rear stock is polymer, but is adjustable along the length of the cylinder if you want to, and the butt pad itself is movable up and down by a simple click of the retaining button on the right hand side. Loading the magazines is simplicity itself. Simply rotate the cover in the direction shown by the arrow. Take this all the way around, then drop in your first pellet, making sure you don't drop it all the way through. So it helps if you put your finger on the back end. Then return the opposite way of the arrow, and then just keep dropping in your pellets until you've gone the whole way round. Once you've filled that, return it to the gun from the right hand side, round way first. Bit of an oddity that. Normally you send it in the flat side, but you put it the round way first. Let's get this over the chronograph then, shall we? And take a look at that adjuster. This is the 177 caliber, but it is available in 22 caliber also, and using some standard 8.44 grain pellets in the 14 round magazine, and there are 2 supplied and included in the box. It saw 782 feet per second, which is 11.46 foot-pounds or 15.54 joules. Set to the maximum, that was. So, plenty of power on tap for target work or a spot of pest control. There is the ability to turn this down, though why most sub-12 shooters would want to do it is still a bit of a mystery, unless you're in very tight spaces or barns and things like that, of course. You should be able to get this down to around 6 foot-pounds, so more or less pistol power. You've then, of course, got an infinite array of power levels in between the two. It's worth just confirming this isn't going to let you go over the 12 foot-pound UK limit. So I've got a scope on this one and we're going to get it out onto the range then, shall we? I've added a Veyron, which keeps the shorter theme going. Here we go then, out at 40 metres. The Reximex Myth, M-Y-T-H. This is, well, it's quite familiar to most anybody who knows the Karl stuff, for example, because it looks very much like the NPO2, very much. But on closer inspection, it definitely isn't the NPO2, and I must say it is markedly better. It's a little bit more expensive, but you can see why it's that little bit more expensive than the NPO2. If you can't afford this one, then they go for the NPO2. But subtle changes, and the mechanics and everything inside are just that little bit sweeter, a little bit better. It's a nice gun, actually. It's not heavy. It's certainly not heavy out the front because the weight's in the back. This particular one is the polymer one, the black polymer. In the review, I believe in the studio, I was using the walnut, which is very nice. This just gives it more of a sleek, slick look about it, in my opinion. It's all adjustable all over the place. The trigger is actually really quite nice. I've still got the label on this one, but yeah, we've charged up. I've dropped a Vector Optics Veyron 6024 on the top. We're going to give it a shoot down there. We're in the courtyard, that's why everything's echoing. Hopefully you can't hear these planes, they're driving me nuts. It's the first dry day we've had, and suddenly everybody and everything wants to come out, including builders, pilots. Everybody's decided it's a nice day, let's get out, and they're just ruining the filming. Anyway, enough of that, straight down. So we're in a courtyard. The paddock is absolutely sodden, absolutely sodden. It's the first dry day we've had. Shooting out, usual 40 metres. Let's see how we do. This particular one is 177. And the oddity is, it's a nice side lever, you put it in round first. And it's a lock open after last shot as well. There's loads and loads of rounds in it. The magazine is plenty big enough. And I put a QGS6 on the end to quieten it down. It doesn't come with a silencer, but the QGS does reduce any bark quite considerably. I think you're getting the gist of that. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. You get the feeling it's just going to continue doing that all day long. Now, book of excuses, it's actually cold. My fingers are starting to go quite blue. So nicer conditions, nicer weather. It will be hopefully a lot better. Just using unsorted JSB pellets. Now, I know there's lots of rumours and things about JSB pellets having, deformed skirts and things like that of late. I don't know. This is an older tin. I've got an old supply, so I'm not having any problems. I did try the QYS's. Didn't seem to like those as much. So I haven't experimented with all the different pellets, but it does seem to quite like the JSBs. So from there on, you can go H&Ns and try all of those things. And the 8s are probably the one to try through it. I just haven't actually got a tin with me today. So it's it's accurate. It's more than accurate. It's a comfortable thing to use, whether you're resting or holding it into, and holding freehand. It's a nice thing to use, and it's a very stable platform. Yeah, all right, I've got a nice little scope on it. I've got the Veyron 624 scope on it, which makes things a lot easier and a lot better. It's a nice bright scope, and I do quite like this. Yeah, I've surprised myself just how much I do actually quite like it. It's a good piece of kit. It's a workhorse as well. But certainly in this black polymer, if you want something for the range, you'd probably go more for the walnut. But if you want something you're probably going to take out and do a bit of pest control, which this would easily do, and be pretty accurate and pretty quiet in the process as well. Doesn't make an awful lot of noise. Doesn't make an awful lot of noise at all. You could put a bigger QGS8 on the end if you want, make it even quieter, but it's not that long, even with that silencer on. It's still, excuse me, a pretty good bullpup. It's adjustable if you want to adjust the stock. It's the easiest thing in the world to talk about. It's a lot harder to actually do it on camera, but there you go. It will adjust. You can adjust this up and down, no problem at all. It is a nice piece of kit. Let me just go and get the targets and we'll have a look. Do you know what? I don't think anybody is going to complain about that. I think that is more than good enough, especially on a cold day. Yeah. Adjust the scope, obviously, if you want it centered. I wanted it away from there just so I can get the grouping. I'm impressed with that. It's a nice gun to use. It's a nice magazine, loads of shots in that magazine. You've got 380 cc's of air all over the darn thing, so you've got plenty to go at. And I don't think that is a bad piece of kit at all for the money. Back to the studio. Just one more thing to actually mention about the Reximex that I actually found while I was doing a lot of the testing, and that is you have the adjustable power wheel. I don't really see any reason why anybody in the UK would particularly use it. The only thing I would say is if you're winding it all the way down to minimum, be careful, because the barrel on these are heavily choked at the end. And if you're trying to send a projectile, a pellet, a slug or anything down there, excuse me, with such a choked barrel on the end, on the very lowest setting, don't be surprised if you don't get it stuck. It's not ideal for slugs at all. I wouldn't try and put slugs down it. So pellets, and wind it up a bit. Don't take it all the way down. Yes, you'll get the power level down if you're in close quarters rat work, but I certainly wouldn't take it all the way to minimum. I would be very careful and experiment with it along the way. So, just a heads up, yes, it's adjustable. Do you need to adjust it? If you do, just take it a little bit, not all the way. Nice gun.
You know, these are really pretty good, and they're nicely balanced and not too heavy. Match it up with the right scope and silencer, and you've got yourself a nice little package. The price of this in the walnut stock is around £430 UK or less. And as such, you've got yourself a nice bullpup that is capable and comfortable to use, with some nice features and adjustability about it. That's it for this week. Time to get your clicky fingers going. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share, and hit the alarm notification bell. Check out this little lot and take a look at the AAR On Air website. All the items used in this week's programme are in the drop-down link below. Just keep clicking more and more again. A big thank you, as always, to Vector Air for getting hold of these for me to review. The biggest thanks, as always, goes out to you guys for watching and supporting the channel. Please stay safe and shoot safe, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.